My name is Beth Hiley here for Board Game Geek TV at Gen Con 2014. I'm sitting down with Jason Huffman of Battle Hardened Games. How are you?
I'm awesome. Always good to be at Gen Con.
I know, yeah. It's been a nice first day so far.
Yeah, mayhem, right? Mayhem everywhere, but a good kind of mayhem.
A good time. Well, isn't that what we want? Because that usually means publicity and money, and those are nice.
A busy show.
Nothing wrong with that at all. And so, to get on to business, you have brought us a prototype copy here of 1750, which is Britain versus France.
Right, right. This is my first game that I've developed.
Yay!
Hooray, hooray. Yeah, so this is like the final box art. The set I have here is a playtesting set. So there's more graphic design that's been applied to the cards already. Some of that you can see on our website.
Do you figure this is about like the box size you're going to be as well?
Yes, yes. It's about the same size as like a Pandemic box, and I'm using that same manufacturer, Panda Gaming. So, yeah, that's about the box. So would you just like to know about the game?
Absolutely. Well, let's do some bare bones features. How many players?
Sure. Yeah, it's a 2-player game. It's a self-enclosed card game, kind of like like a lot of LCGs will have that boxed card game. But yeah, it's ages 13 and up is kind of what I'm targeting, and it's a 2-player game where one player plays as Britain and the other player plays as France. The theme is 1700s battle for their colonies around the world. There are 4 theaters. There's North America, Caribbean, Indian, and African colonies. You pull those colonies to start the game out of a deck of colonies. You put the first 3 from each theater on the board, and so you get some randomization to your board instead of having a set board each time. All
right, so I'm guessing, because I like to try and guess because then I know everyone else is following along pretty well. So I'm guessing these 4 groups here we have are our four colony areas.
Right. These are our 4 theaters where we can fight each other and try to take control. And in taking the colonies and completing political objectives, that's our win condition. So whoever controls the most colonies and political objectives wins. A tiebreaker is whoever has the most enemy leaders in their prison. But basically, you want to take the colonies over from the opponent.
So what about what would a turn look like? What to expect if we sat down to play together?
Right. So if we had set up the board, we would have our hand in front of us. Everybody starts with a couple starting cards. There's like a monarch. His Majesty is seeing to this matter personally. And there's a Splendor of Versailles or Influence of William Pitt on the British side. They're mirrors of each other, though. But you'll have 5 cards to start the game.
Yeah, and here I'm going to move the high seats here so we can just take a little look at maybe what some of these would look like.
Right. Yep, so you always start out with these couple of cards. This card can cancel other historic events or re-roll a die. This card gives a boost to political objective rolls when we're trying to accomplish political objectives. And then there's a few historic event cards that we've drawn already to start the game. The rest of the historic events have been placed into 2 piles. There's this pile where there's 10 of them. We draw one of these at the start of each of our turns, so we each take 5 turns total for the game in terms of duration. The rest of them are placed in this pile where they can be purchased once per turn. You can spend 1 gold to buy a historic event. So it's kind of a randomized process to allow you to kind of get something that'd be akin to like enchantments or one-shot abilities, instants. If you were looking at like a Magic game, kind of similar to that.
So the time frame for our game though is basically when this pile runs out. So it's a set finite amount of turns.
Yes, although I do have like a rules variant in the rule book where if you want a longer, more strategic experience, you can add more turns. If you added like
very different flavor of 1750.
Yes, if you want a real war of attrition, then you can add, 2 more cards to this historic event pile to add 1 turn, or 4 cards to add 2 turns, or whatever suits your fancy there. So, so we have our hand to start the game, and on my turn, I would kind of go through this following sequence, which is on our player mat.
Which I will move that into the middle next. So here's mine for England.
Yes, you can see we have a turn sequence, and again, this is not the final graphics, but it's the illustrations that you can expect to see on the player mat. And so we'll first draw a historic event card, like I just mentioned. So I'll take this into my hand. Oh, those are yours.
those are mine. Those are yours.
These are mine. So I've drawn a historic event card. I would take any leader actions or actions at colonies. This is your text out at these colonies. A lot of them will say if you have a leader here, you can attempt to do something at the start of your turn. Then we get into our political objectives, which, do you want me to show the political
Absolutely.
objectives map?
Let's just plunk that right down on top of it.
So you have your other world leaders that you're trying to persuade to join your efforts, so they give you some kind of a benefit, either an economic benefit or a military benefit as the gameplay unfolds. But basically they have like a difficulty number on each one of them. You're always entitled to 1 die. You get to roll that die, and if your score equals or exceeds the score on that political objective, then you have successfully accomplished it, and you would put one of your control markers on top of that political objective to show that you control it. So in my case, I would pick a particular political objective. I might say Sweden. I'll roll a die. I would fail it if I rolled a 1. If I rolled a 4 or higher, I would successfully accomplish that political objective. In the case of Sweden, they give you an economic benefit, which is a copy of the timber card. And so we have these different...
Yeah, so sugar...
Yeah, there's sugar, precious metals, ivory, spices. Here's that 1 copy of the timber card. So I would take this onto my side of the table. You know, every colony produces some kind of export. There's silk, fur, fish, indigo. And for every 3 different exports that we have on our side, we produce an additional gold at the end of our turn.
Okay.
Yep, so you're always entitled to 1 gold, or I'm sorry, you're always entitled to 3 gold no matter what, but you get an additional 1 gold for every set of 3 different exports that you possess. So you get your political objective attempt, then you move on to your purchases. There's a couple different things you can do in your purchases phase. You can spend 1, like I said, to get another historic event card. Or the main thing that you would do is you would potentially, well, not potentially, you will decide what cards from your battle deck that you'd like to purchase.
I see. So you have one with little France symbols up there, so this would be mine.
Right, so you got your British battle deck, and I've got my French battle deck. These are very similar, except for, of course, the leaders are historically accurate.
And I was just going to ask you, obviously, you know.
Yep. So this is George Washington from his
early days,
yes. His early days when he kind of started this whole mess. So yeah, he's part of the Virginia militia in this particular illustration. You know, kind of extension of the British Army, and he bolsters local allies who are with him. So kind of themed with that idea. A lot of these leaders will have like their famous victories that they've accomplished. So
always fun to sneak a little history in there.
A little bit of education. Not too much educational value. No, I'm just kidding. I do hope that there's plenty of educational value to it. Hopefully it can, you know, start some discussions with people about, well, what's that all about? You know, what's going on in India during the French and Indian War? What's going on in Africa during the French and Indian War? You know, it's the Americans don't always, you know, have the best information about that, or we don't study that. You know, we study our North American experience, but not the rest of the world. So hopefully there's some value there. But yeah, we buy our units. So I could spend 3 gold, for example, for, we'll say a German, well, not a German, I'm sorry. Let's go with a leader card for 2 gold. The cost is in the upper left corner. The sword icon is means it's a leader. So we're buying a leader, and we'll get, say, a fortress. And then we would have any movement. So when we do our movement, I'll probably pull this off of here.
Put our high C's back in the middle there.
Yeah, we'll just do this as kind of a hypothetical here. So I've got my my local allies card out here. When we move, we can move either to a space that's adjacent to us in a particular theater. So we go from here to here to here. That's all 1 space away. Or you can always go to the high seas, or from the high seas to any colony. So all colonies are considered adjacent to the high seas.
Via high seas, yeah.
Yes, yes. So we'll say it's my movement phase. I could go from here to here. I could take over your colony. Obviously, we'd normally be sitting across from each other.
Right.
But I could take this over, place my control marker on here, and then I would gain your export. I would take your export into my economy on my
Which
side
is
of the
all
game
printed
table.
right there. So this export would be precious metals.
Yes, and these do have like icons in the graphic design version. There are icons that match up with icons placed on the export cards, so it's a little easier to read, you know, the totality of what is in front of you, right? So that's pretty much how movement works. Now let's talk about battles. So we'll just back up to this example here. We'll say Britain is in control of this colony. And we'll say George Washington is in Africa. You know, he's gotten detoured a little bit. The British monarch, maybe he did so well in North America that they dispatched him over there. And that's kind of dorky. All right. So I'm moving here. as a French player, we would have a battle here, and we just modify our die roll by whatever it states. So in George Washington's case, he is just a straight up die roll, whereas Armand de Vignereau Duplay is
well done.
Something like that is a die roll +1. So Washington normally would give a bigger benefit to these local ally cards, is what he does. But we would each roll a die, and something would happen. So in this case, because of our +1, Washington would be going to the French prison.
Which right there on your player mat.
Right. So you could no longer purchase him, and he is, would be worth a tiebreaker for me if we were tied at the end of the game in terms of our victory points. So you can also have bigger battles where you're always pairing up the units. You can kind of overload things a little bit. You can get 2-on-1 matchups or 3-on-1 matchups if you orchestrate it that way. But ultimately in these pairings, it's the high die roll wins and results in the opponent having to lose a unit. Most units, if they're destroyed, they don't go to the prison. Most of them come right back to your battle deck where they're available for purchase in subsequent turns.
So more the leaders are the ones,
yes,
the notable figures.
Right, the big wigs, they're the ones who can go off to
and
the
that
prison.
is literal in this time period. They really would be the big wigs.
Oh yeah, they're very fly, very styling, I think. I don't know if I kind of thought about wearing something like that.
When we do videos in Essen, we have a great history of having people show up in costumes. So.
Yep. Pretty awesome.
You could have started a whole trend here at Gen Con of dressing up for your interview.
I should have. I was thinking full, red coat regalia, but maybe next year.
Yeah.
Maybe next year. So I'll just point out a couple things, like the historic event cards. You could use those to modify these battles. So there's all sorts of different possibilities. Like this is disease, play at the start of a battle, opponent's units all roll at -2 for this battle. So there's modifiers on that. There's like intrigue at court, where this is a reduction to your political objective rolls. So distractions at court, major trade deal, where this is just an economic option. You can destroy one of your exports to get 2 gold. So there's kind of a variety of different historic event possibilities.
Now, in this, obviously, since we're still working on our prototype here, you've just pulled from, classic art for your art. Are you actually having an artist draw out?
No, I really, for me, I wanted to feature all the paintings from history.
Lovely.
That was really a major objective of mine, was to feature, illustrations and maps also. So you'll see on some of these colonies, they're like a painting of the harbor. On others, they're a map of the Caribbean or another area of the world.
Oh, I'm thrilled at that. That's going to be the final end of it thing, because I'm really enjoying, actually. It's almost like a nice little museum tour here while you're playing your game.
Yeah. No, that was absolutely my intent with it, was to feature. I like the art from this era, so I wanted to run with that. And there's so much great stuff that I figured why not feature that. I am very close to finished in terms of like the design and play testing and everything. So the Kickstarter actually is August 26th. So we're only like 12 days away from launching
coming up
that.
around the corner.
Yes. So very excited about that. Just trying to get word out here. And
well, here we'll bring the box up one more time, just so everyone, if they see it on Kickstarter, can say, "Oh yeah, that game. We saw that at Gen Con."
Sure. Yeah. Here's the back of the box, and yeah.
Well, Robert.
Yeah, and if people do want to see the more complete graphics, those are available online.
Fantastic. So. Well, I thank you so much for bringing us what we have. We get a nice hands-on experiment before it goes live. So
yes, that was a lot of fun.
And have an excellent rest of the show.
You too. Definitely appreciate it.
No problem.